Welcome to the Perimenopause and Midlife podcast. I'm your host, Terry Betsakis, and this is where we talk honestly about midlife, hormones, mindset, and becoming who you want to be next. Welcome to the Perimenopause and Midlife podcast. I'm your host, Terry Betsakis, and this week I'm talking with Susan Judd. Susan is the founder of Hot, Foggy and Fabulous, a platform supporting women through the real lived experience of perimenopause and menopause. Her work is grounded in both personal insight and the collective voices of women shared through the Hot, Foggy and Fabulous research project, bringing honesty and relatability to a stage of life that is often misunderstood. Blending emotional intelligence with real-world insight, she helps women navigate the physical, emotional, and identity shifts of midlife with greater clarity, self-compassion, and confidence. With a background in workforce culture and leadership, Susan is the creator of the simple 3S framework: safe, supported, sustainable, designed to help organizations of all sizes create practical, human-centered menopause support at work. Welcome, Susan. It is an absolute pleasure to have you.
Hello, Terry. It's fabulous to be here. I'm so excited to be talking to your listeners today about all things perimenopause and menopause.
Me too. I am too. It's a passion of mine. Can you share a little bit about yourself, what you do, and how you support women in perimenopause?
Yes, I can. As you've introduced me, I am Susan Judd, and my work sits across emotional intelligence, leadership, workplace culture, and women's well-being. Through the Hot, Foggy and Fabulous platform and organisation, I support women through perimenopause and menopause by helping them feel more connected to one another. Goal is to reduce their loneliness and overwhelm, and giving them emotional intelligence tools to better understand what's happening and navigate the transition, which can sometimes be really challenging for women. I also help workplaces better understand how to support women transitioning through menopause and perimenopause as well, so that workplaces can better understand what this challenging time can look like for women, and they can feel more comfortable having conversations, which are often, have been for so long taboo about menopause. And my goal is to help workplaces and women untaboo those conversations at work and think more intentionally about how to support, engage and retain, importantly, women in midlife at work, because the research, and we'll go into the research in a moment, but the Hot, Foggy and Fabulous research showed that women were stepping back and even retiring early because they felt misunderstood and unsupported at work. So for me, the work is about both sides of the coin. It's about helping women feel seen and supported, and helping workplaces respond with, more skills, more tools, more confidence, more support, and, generating this 3S framework of safety, support and sustainability.
So a partnership.
So it's always got those two sides, because we're as we were, talking through the intro, before the intro, it's about sorry, I've lost my train of thought. There you go. It's menopause at work.
That's okay. That happens to all of us. Ladies out there can relate to this. This is good. Just goes to show.
I've gone blank. I've gone totally blank. And there's symptom 101, brain fog.
Correct. I think what you were touching on is what we were talking off air just before we started recording, that we were talking about how, now my brain's gone blank.
Don't worry, it'll come
back.
Great
episode.
It'll come back. It's fine. It'll come back.
Oh, so good. No, I got it. Okay, so my brain's come back to it. We are the first generation of women who are in leadership roles and working in such senior positions as compared to previous generations, and balancing everything from elderly parents to children to work and life, and somewhere in between there we've got to think about ourselves as well. See, we got it.
We got there. Thank you so much. And I was going to comment on the fact that we are one of the first, or the first generation where we've got all those balls in the air. When our mums were going through menopause and perimenopause, well, my mum wasn't even in the workplace. So it was just one part of the whole picture, the juggle picture that just wasn't even in the mix. And then, of course, they didn't talk back then about everything was silent. So
Yeah.
we want to change that. We want to build build a world, build a workplace, build home lives, build partnerships at home where we're talking about this and we're making change for the next generation of women.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. We definitely need to make that change because we're not going anywhere. If anything, we're going to just advance even further. So we may as well get it right
Yeah.
and continue to just thrive in the second part of our lives. I agree.
Yeah.
This is real time for us to shine for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to tell a story about how I actually came to be doing the work because
Mm.
I've been for nearly 20 years now, I've been working with in particular, small and medium businesses, supporting them in building workplace culture, in developing their leaders, in helping them with HR tools and support and structures. And so I really came into the work in a really personal way. So I was working with all these different workplaces and I was watching midlife women change at work. They'd get to a certain point and kind of lose their mojo. Um, you know, they'd always been in the past, they'd always been capable, steady, team players, really valuable. And suddenly they were showing up to work differently. They might have seemed for their workplaces a little bit more emotional, a little bit less confident, a little bit more forgetful. Hello, a little bit less
More examples of
engaged.
that.
Yeah, a little bit less engaged, maybe a little bit more irritable, less team oriented, and generally a little bit harder to work with. And at times, I was part of those conversations, supporting employers, right, to make some challenging and difficult conversations and help them through performance management challenges with women of this age
Mm.
group,
Isn't
which
interesting? Performance management. And these
oh
are
look
just symptoms of life. Wow.
oh look
Okay.
I know, but and this is why it's so personally confronting, because in some cases I even helped clients navigate women to reduce their hours or move toward early retirement, right? And I want to say that this was all seen as performance and productivity issues,
Wow.
right? So it was being misunderstood. These behaviours were being misunderstood as poor behaviours or attitude or changes in their ability to be productive in the workplace, and so it's really confronting because I was a part of that client journey as a HR consultant, helping them to facilitate those changes.
Well, no wonder women
Uh,
don't really
yeah,
want to
yeah,
talk about this stuff,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And then it happened to me. And
Oh,
that landed really hard, right?
wow.
Because I stand up in front of people for a living, right? I educate
Mhm.
adults. I develop leaders. I facilitate. I keynote speak. I hold space for people in coaching programs. And then for me, the hot flushes started first and I was in front of people and I got embarrassed.
Yeah,
The air conditioning had turned down. You'd be dripping sweat. And I know that there'll be listeners who are nodding their heads and saying,
that's me.
they can feel
I'm naughty.
the sweat down their face. They can feel the sweat down their back, and I carry a hand fan everywhere, even when the air conditioning is on. There you go.
Here's my fan.
Yeah, yeah. Even when the air conditioning's on, and everybody else is wrapped in their jackets and that sort of thing. I was embarrassed. I made jokes. I was self-deprecating. I apologized to people. I tried to brush it off, but then I started losing my train of thought in front of groups,
Mm,
standing up in front of people, gone. Whatever I was going to say disappeared out of my brain. And I'd stop and ask, where was I up to? Can you help me? Can you, like I
yeah,
just did with you?
yeah,
And you know what? That really knocks your confidence. You stop feeling like yourself. And because my mum had dementia, my mind went straight to really scary places.
yeah,
Like I
same.
started thinking, is this early onset dementia?
Mhm.
And when you've lived through that trauma with a loved one, it lands really hard. So that was pretty much the turning point. I started looking back over the past 15, 16 years of stories, observations, conversations with employers and women, and I thought, is this something deeper? Is this something that I have not had the information for or the knowledge about to acknowledge that? So that's when I launched Hot, Foggy and Fabulous Research Project. And I launched it across all of my clients, my personal and business socials. And with weeks, I had hundreds of responses across, and it kept going, mostly from Australian women, but also from women in the UK, in Canada, and the United States. And what hit me was not just the symptom patterns, but it was the loneliness. It was
Yeah.
women felt lonely. So many women felt isolated, confused, didn't know who they were anymore. They just felt like, who is this person that I'm inhabiting? And and they were blaming themselves, like they were laying blame on themselves. And because the research was anonymous, I couldn't reply to anybody. And honestly, I'd sit on I don't know if anybody else has done research out there, but I'd sit on the lounge at night reading all the responses. And honestly, I remember saying out loud, I just want to jump through the research and hug all of these women through the screen I was looking at, because
Yeah.
I just felt like I was saying out loud, I want you to know you're not alone, because everybody that's participating in the research is saying the same thing. I feel alone. I feel like nobody gets it. I feel overwhelmed. So that was the moment that I thought, this is definitely something. And then the questions became, well, what am I going to do about it? Right. So that's how it all kind of started. And I want to be really honest here and say, I was part of like before I went through perimenopause and I had
Yeah.
my own personal journey, I didn't know it was something. And that was 5, 6, 7 years ago. That was before we were talking about it openly. And
I can actually fully relate to that.
yeah.
I have coached and trained women for 16 years. And up until about 3 or 4 years ago, when I was really in the thick of all of my hormonal changes, etc., um, I knew about menopause. I've studied women's hormones for many years. And I've worked with women for many, many years. So of all ages, it wasn't like I was totally oblivious to this whole perimenopause concept. And I knew it was way more than hot flushes and sweats. And yet
Mm,
I didn't really fully comprehend until I went through it myself and went, wow, okay, now I really need to take it next level, which is why I then turned and really focused on this as well. So we have a very similar journey in that
mm,
different careers, but the
mm.
journey itself, I guess, has brought us together. So that's
Yeah,
interesting.
definitely.
Why
And
do you
so
reckon? Oh, no, go on. Sorry,
And
go on.
so I'm thinking about, well, okay, what what are the sorts of things that, we're not saying, because we've been for years and years, for generations, we've been silent about the journey, and the transition. I mean, we remember it being called by our mums, it was kind of that taboo subject. Nobody talked about it. So I think, and you were just talking about, kind of some of the key symptoms that are very well recognized, like the hot flushes and like the mood swings. There's also the sleeplessness, the weight gain that you talked about, and then, of course, the loss of libido, right? That many women experience,
Oh, yeah.
which then also starts to impact home as well, and your personal home relationships. That's not a work thing; that's a home relationship. So we've got all of this going on, and
Mm.
that's sometimes. And even though we're talking about that, it's sometimes where the conversation stops. So, but it's so much broader and much more layered than some of those. Let's the popular or well-known symptoms, you know, the impact of brain fog that we've already talked, like that, just the impact that that has on your confidence. And you used to be maybe a you used to be a confident woman, but your confidence definitely takes a dip. You might have sleep problems. Lots of women have
Oh,
sleep
the witchy
problems.
hour. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're throwing blankets on and off. Well, that's me, even to this day, throwing
Yep.
blankets on and off
One leg
a
in, one
100
leg out.
times. Yes, 100 times a night. Fan on, fan off, fan
Yep.
on, fan off. You
Turn the
know,
heat off.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
All of those things like and because of that, we're fatigued. The anxiety, so many women feel anxiety that they've never had before, like
Yep.
next level anxiety, or they will be diagnosed at the GP with depression because but we also, if you've listened to other podcasts and read books, we know that's not always the issue.
Yeah.
There's depression, but the antidepressants don't work because
But having
actually it's
depression symptoms, so
yeah,
depressive symptoms is
symptoms. Yeah.
very different to suffering depression.
Depression,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But often GPs will prescribe antidepressants and they don't work because
Yeah.
actually we're missing hormones. So these are some of the things that, yes, women have never felt before, and that's so, I'm going to say the word, sorry, discombobulating. It really is like, what's
Such a good
going
word.
on? It's like, it really is. It's just like, what's going on? So they're feeling flat. They feel unlike themselves. They're emotionally all over the place, and they don't feel who like they know themselves anymore. They don't know who they are. So what we're really not talking about is the emotional cost of all of that. We're talking about the symptom layer, but not the emotional stuff. And women aren't really confident yet in talking about what's happening for them at work. Now, I know there's some organisations in Australia, thankfully, that are very much working with corporates, large corporate. So if you're a woman in a large corporate, you might have some tools that you are working like that you at your disposal. But because my work has always typically been with small and medium businesses in regional areas around Australia, seriously, there are no tools out
Mm.
there. There are no tools, and so many people are feeling they're struggling to talk to their partner. They're being, kind of mocked at work because they're always, hot or forgetting things. So the narratives are also really, kind of medical, mocking, or missing. Let's call them the three M's. There you go. I've
Yeah.
just made something up there. Medical, mocking,
It's
or
true.
missing altogether, right? So this is what women are going through in workplaces, in homes, because their partners don't kind of understand, and we're not necessarily we don't know what's going on, so we're not talking to our partners either.
Mm.
We're a bit clueless as to what the hell's going on for us. So those conversations, we just kind of hope that they'll like leave us alone for a while, and sneak up a bit further to the other side of the bed, um, so that we don't have to deal with that whole loss of libido conversation as well. So there's all of these, and some of that all comes from grief, which is like the one of those emotions is grief, because there are women, and these are women that I've talked to, hundreds and hundreds of women I've talked to, and also the hundreds and hundreds of women who have participated in the research. They're grieving a life stage. They're grieving what they're moving on from.
Yeah. Who they
That
used to
ability
be,
to,
what they were able to do. Yeah.
yeah, have babies. We used to be able to, we were fertile. We used to be able to have babies, and now that choice is taken out of our hands. And that,
Mm.
for a lot of women that I've
But even
spoken
things like
to,
just movement, like
yeah,
we were, capable and we could move in this way, but all of a sudden we've got all these aches and pains and we're a bit stiffer, and so now we're not
yeah,
moving, which makes the pain worse. So then we're not,
yeah,
and I was like, but I used to be so active and now I can't do
yes,
anything. And
or
I used to
strong,
be lean and now I've got this belly.
yes,
Yeah,
all of
all this
them.
stuff.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. So women are really harshly self-judging. Like we judge ourselves really. I don't want to say they, I want to say we, because
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
solid in this space, right?
Definitely we.
We're really harsh on ourselves. We blame ourselves. We hate out. I'm also going to say there's a lot of self-hate out there because we're not who we used to be. And so we don't really have the emotional tools to work through what's happening. We just kind of and by the way, not everybody can afford a therapist.
Yeah,
Right? There's,
correct.
yes, you can go to a therapist, and I was lucky enough to work with one for a couple of years, but not everybody. That's not open to everybody.
Well, some
Um,
people are not even comfortable to speak with a therapist. They don't actually
yeah.
even realize, oh, will I benefit from this? Or is this
Yes.
something even to talk to a therapist about,
Yes.
a coach even, or a psych, or
Anyone.
anyone?
Yeah.
Well, we've been told not to raise things and not rattle the place and, don't talk about topics that are a bit uncomfortable. And we're always about fluff, fluff, fluff and make us all feel good and happy and all the rest of it. Meanwhile, we're kind of shrinking inside going, oh my God, who am I and where have I gone and who am
Yeah.
I becoming and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So what you do is incredible work. This is so powerful for the ladies, especially the research, so you can really get the data. Because I'm talking to ladies about the same stuff.
Oh
So
my
that's
goodness.
awesome.
Seriously, just a few, like, if you'd like a few stats, I've got a few stats for you that came
Oh,
from the
yes,
research.
please. Let's do
'Cause
it.
some ladies like to hear stats,
I
right?
like
So
stats.
these are for the ladies who like to hear stats.
Numbers,
So
people. Yep,
so
there are some
what came
numbers. For those of
yeah.
you who are not numbers, just pause for 1 second. Just kind of
uh,
go and, I don't know, take some breaths or something while we talk numbers. Let's do it.
yes, yes, yes.
If this podcast is resonating, I'm Coach Terry Batsakis, a nutrition, mindset, and health coach for women navigating perimenopause and midlife. I support women in managing hormonal symptoms, feel more at home in their bodies, and move through this phase with confidence and clarity. If you need support navigating midlife, you can find out more about working with me at terrybatsakis.com.au.
So what came through really, really clearly in the research was that it's not one neat and tidy symptom that people are feeling. It's layered, and it often happens in clusters. So yes, we've already talked about brain fog. That was one of the strongest themes, with 80% of women reporting experiencing brain fog.
80%?
Yep.
Crazy. Right. Okay.
That knocked me for that. Like, I thought, actually, it made me feel better.
I was
To
going
be
to say,
honest,
I don't feel so bad that at the start of the show that we both kind of went, oh God, what were we talking about?
we're a statistic, but we're a big one.
Yay,
80% of
we're
women.
real.
Anxiety was another big one. 65% reported feeling anxiety that they'd never experienced before.
That one doesn't surprise me at all, actually.
Yeah, yeah, and that was definitely me. Definitely. When the research was coming in, I'm like, I sort of feel vindicated now, because all of these, some women are really lucky and don't really experience anything. But the women
Yes.
that,
God
yes,
bless
and
them.
yes, got yeah, all power to them.
Yeah.
But lots of women experience lots of things. So, yep, 65% reported anxiety that they'd never experienced before. So it was abnormal for them. Sleep deprivation and fatigue, which we've already talked about, that was 66% reported insomnia and sleep problems, and another 66% reported fatigue or burnout. And mood swings and irritability were common at 60%. Right, so even that's quite high too, right?
Yeah,
But
that's
what?
so high. But if you
Yeah,
think about it, if you're not sleeping, of course you're going to be moody, yeah? If your
moody and
hormones are
irritable.
going crazy, of course
Yeah,
you're going to be moody. That's kind of
yeah,
normal. I had a
yeah.
client who actually described it as feeling like the seven dwarfs. I was like, that's
Oh,
the
that's
best
clever.
that's a great
Yeah, that's
representation.
clever. But the mood swings and irritability I found really interesting, even in my personal context, because I've typically am known for being very kind of placid, kind of
Right.
like very stable.
Yeah.
And my family was giving me feedback saying,
Oh, your mood's
"Mum,
changed.
yeah, Mum, you're moody," and
Yeah.
my husband
I was
saying,
I'm the
"Suze, you're
opposite.
moody."
As
Yeah,
a Gemini, I'm like, if you don't like my mood, just hang about 5 minutes, right? So going through perimenopause, man, I
love,
suddenly had like 10 personalities, not 2.
yeah.
So the kids and the hubby were like, what the heck's going on here?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so the research had like 40 different symptoms that women could comment
Yeah.
on, or select, and there was just so many women who selected so many. But that they'd experienced kind of so many of them: dry eyes, frozen shoulders, plantar fasciitis, like just kind of random things
Elevated
that
histamine.
said a GP just would never
Mm.
connect, back would never connect. I had a frozen shoulder for about 3 years, and the GP told me it was arthritis and I'd have to learn to live with it. And then
Oh,
one day I just woke up, it was gone.
it
I
was me
couldn't
with
believe
my
it.
hip,
Yeah.
bursitis in the hip. So that's a common one I see with clients
Mm,
as well,
yeah.
bursitis in the hip, which same here. Mine just disappeared one day and I was went, "Oh, bye.
Yeah, it's
Thanks."
gone, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so what the research was telling us was it wasn't just women just aren't dealing with one symptom at a time. More than 70% of our participants were living with 3 or more symptoms in any given month. Right? So they were experiencing multiple things. And then when you look at work, then we did some workplace research, right? So then when you, you look at work, there's even greater impacts. In my research, 80% of women said their confidence in their professional ability took a hit. 80% of
Wow,
women felt less
80%.
confident at work. Yeah.
I
And
I can actually attest that I would be one of those people in the
yep,
thick of it. I was
yep,
definitely that person. Yep.
yep. And 70% said communication or memory in meetings, brain fog,
Mhm.
was affected, and
We are exhibit
60%.
A and B. Yep.
Yes, we are. And 60% had stepped back from opportunities to
Yes.
lead projects or to step up to, to take a promotion.
Wow.
And then there was a smaller percentage, it was more around the 10% had actually left the workforce altogether. But that actually tells us that there's a broader problem than just what's going on in our homes and in our bodies.
Mm.
There's the workplace problems, there's the economic problems, there's the society problems of when women step down or step back. By the way, when we hit midlife, we're just hitting our career straps, by the
Yes.
way. So you mentioned it earlier, we've got less commitments with our children, right? So our children are often grown. Even if they're not fully out of the home, they might be teenagers, right? So
Yeah,
they're a
more
little bit more
more
self-sufficient.
independent.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
a little bit more self-sufficient. We might have elderly parents, or our parents might have passed. So we've got maybe a little bit more time and energy to focus fully on our careers. And then this happens. And
Mhm.
we get some of these statistics that are saying, well, actually, women are stepping back, not forward.
It's
And
scary, isn't it? We finally got the
yeah,
opportunity to flourish and then we're just holding back.
yeah. And so the broader impacts of that on our economy, things like when we're stepping back from opportunities, or when we're going part time,
Mm.
or when we're leaving the workforce. Okay, now we're not getting one the we're not getting paid as much.
Yeah.
We're not getting super, or we're not putting away as much super. So then we've got the flow on effects from all of those things that are going to impact us in the longer term. So I think this is where the conversations at work are kind of really come to the fore. And how do we stop women from making those sorts of decisions? And that's, I guess, where the kind of the framework piece came in.
Can you talk us through how that actually what that looks like in practice? Like
Yeah.
the framework. You said the 3S, the framework of safety, supported, and sustainable.
Yeah, definitely. I love the 3S framework because it's easy for women and workplaces to understand,
Mm.
right? We already know, and I really want to make it practical for workplaces because, as you recall, and the listeners will recall, I generally work with small and medium businesses. So we need to keep it simple and straightforward for workplaces to put into practice. But safety, and women will understand safety. Safety means women need to feel like they can speak without being judged, without being dismissed, without being laughed at, or without being quietly penalised, right? So we need to create, and it links tightly to our legislation around psychological safety in
Yeah.
the workplace, but it expands out to women who are experiencing some of the challenges of perimenopause and menopause. So it's about kind of being respectful of of the life stage that they're in, and ensuring that workplaces are recognizing some of the psychological safety aspects of creating a safe workplace for people experiencing perimenopause and menopause. So that's the safety. That's, yes, the
Safety is a
first
big
S.
one.
the big
13 years
one.
in work cover, I get safety. Yep,
Yeah, yeah.
definitely.
So just creating those, but specifically for menopause and perimenopause. So we're
Mm,
taking away the mock. We're taking about the mocking. We're taking away the mocking and the laughter. We're taking away feeling dismissed or isolated or ignored. All of those things. So supported means in the workplace that there are practical options available. Things like flexibility for, so if you've had a sleepless night, maybe maybe there's a start late. Maybe there's a, can I work from home today? Like if you've got disrupted sleep, you're not going to show up as your best self at work
mm.
because you are exhausted. So, and if you've got if you've got a lot of meetings, then that's also going to impact your brain fog. So there's maybe some flexible work practices. There's opportunities to reset. Go for a walk for 5 minutes around the block just to get out of the office, get some fresh air, get some vitamin D, and um, take away the anxiety. Or small adjustments at your desk. A fan on your desk, or I know that there's lots of women talking about cool rooms, right? And maybe having some cool rooms in the workplace,
Mm,
rooms where the air conditioning is maybe a little bit cooler than the regular office air
that's a good
conditioning,
one.
so
Yeah.
that they can go into that room and work productively, rather than, constantly needing, fanning and, drawing attention to themselves this way. So there's, talking about small adjustments we can make to support women so that they don't have to over explain or justify themselves all the time. They can just
That
go,
would
"Well, things
work with
good."
uniforms too, like what
Yeah.
kind of uniforms they're wearing. Because if it
Yeah,
obviously,
definitely.
long sleeves or heavy fabric or anything, and they're feeling
Polyester.
quite warm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let them wear, kind of cottons and linens and lighter polycottons and that sort of thing so that
yeah.
they, are that little bit cooler. And then, of course, sustainable means that we don't want to just be depending on that one good manager or one key conversation, that we embed through policy, we embed through leadership training and capability, and colleague training and capability as well, so that we're creating a culture that's accepting and sustainable of women who are transitioning through perimenopause and menopause, so that so that it becomes this is the way we work, rather than, just, I had a really good manager. That manager's moved on, and
Mm.
now I have to change all of these. I don't have the same support as I used to have. We don't want that. We want it to be organizational wide. So that's the basics of the three
Yeah, I
S
love that.
framework. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because if we look at the diversity within workplaces, and this could be in retail, it could be in hospitality, in corporates, in wherever trade, wherever it is. If somebody has a special need of some sort, so like they have a physical disability or a mental disability or learning disability, or they have
Yeah.
let's say they're pregnant, so they have certain limitations as
Mhm.
pregnancy. They may need to interrupt a meeting a little bit more frequently because they need to go to the toilet, and
Yeah.
that's accepted as a
Yes.
pregnant woman, but not so much as a menopausal woman who will also have more frequent urination, and
Yes.
then just
Oh,
opening it up to the colleagues, I guess, to accept that okay, this person is you know experiencing a few things that we just need to accept that that's who they are and we can work around it rather than mocking and laughing as you were saying before.
yeah. And just that understanding and empathy that it's not something that women can do anything about.
Yeah, yeah, correct.
There's half the planet is going to go through menopause, right? So that's a lot of women,
More
right?
than
More
because
than,
there's
yes,
more
what is it?
females than males
51%.
statistically. That's right.
51%, right? And in 2025, there was more than 1 billion women going through menopause.
1
Ju just
billion
Yeah,
women. Okay, let's
one
just sink
one
that.
billion 1 billion women on the planet going through menopause in 2025. So let's just, extend that out to 2026. It's gonna be the same stat, right?
Yeah,
So
let
it's a
that sink
lot
in.
of women. Let that 1 billion
God.
people that going through menopause, and we're still pretty silent in our workplaces and pretty silent in our partners, in our partnerships.
Yeah.
So we're getting a bit louder with one another, and I think we have social media to thank for that in some ways, because we've got communities where we can bring people together, and people can find a community of supportive women a little bit. But that doesn't replace having a conversation with your partner or your
No.
workplace or your girlfriends around, face to face, because and we don't want to be. I
And
think,
your kids.
yeah, we want to be, yeah, oh, definitely your kids,
Mm.
but we want to be, more open. Like we want to, again, I mean, my words are untaboo the conversation. Like, let's all talk about it, because it's happening to 1 billion women right
I
now.
totally agree with you. It's
Mm,
interesting because it took decades for us to get some level of equality with regards to pregnancy and children, raising families, being able to take maternity leave. What are your rights and payments during that time off, return to work, what kind of flexibility was available, taking some personal leave if the kids are sick, school holidays,
mm,
childcare. So that took decades from
yeah.
that perspective. I'm hoping that through the work that you and I are doing and
Mhm.
my other guests on this podcast, that it's not going to take anywhere near as long for us to make those changes so that we can get that across the world in employment, in workplaces, in businesses, in our social settings, in our families. I want to get that across sooner. Let's not
Yeah.
take decades. Like that took crazy. I mean, I couldn't tell you exactly what the statistic is, but we've been around a while. We know that was a real problem. It's still not
Mm,
perfect, but gosh, it's come a long way. So
yeah.
let's speed it
Yes,
up
speed it
for
up. Yeah,
yeah.
because those ladies who are taking maternity leave today, they're going to be the ladies in possibly less than a decade, even if you're an older mum like me
Mm.
who has a baby around 40. You're going to be going through you're going to be going through perimenopause before your baby potentially goes to school.
Oh my god, that's scary.
Yeah, you might be,
Wow.
because perimenopause is also hitting earlier too. So
Yeah.
we've
So
got
you're
we've
just
got
getting over your
ladies in the.
hormone surges, having kids, and then you're going through home. Oh wow.
Yeah, and
Yes.
then and
I
then,
didn't
of
think of
course,
that.
and you've also got women who are going through perimenopause when their daughters get to are going through their hormonal changes
Oh
too,
god.
through their teens, and, that some of these stories came out in the research, and it was like, "Oh my god, it's fireworks in my house," you know, because I'm going through
Yes.
perimenopause and my daughter's going through her kind of hormonal changes as well, and it's fireworks. So,
Well,
and
they
but
say
then
that perimenopause is your second puberty.
yeah.
So it's
It
if
feels
the
like it
reversal.
when you start to, like, look at the symptoms and all of the changes that are going on for women, not just physically, but emotionally and cognitively, it's probably bigger,
Hmm. Yeah, I totally agree.
it's probably bigger,
Well,
isn't
for
it?
the ladies who are uncomfortable bringing it up at work
Yep.
and starting those conversations, how do you suggest that they actually even approach the subject?
It's a
So
really great question, right? Because my advice is to start small. Okay, don't kind of you don't need to share every detail about your journey, all
yeah.
right? You don't need
Mm.
to tell your whole story. You can keep it focused and practical. That would be my advice, because people will be comfortable with that. But you can also say, I'm dealing with some health related symptoms that are affecting my concentration, affecting my energy. Sometimes they affect my sleep. And I'd like to talk about what we might be able to do at work that might help.
Wow,
Right.
that's a
So,
great statement. My
yeah.
God, for those of you listening,
You want me to say it again?
replay that, write it down.
I'm
Yes,
dealing with
please
some
repeat that.
I'm dealing with some health related symptoms that are affecting my concentration, my energy, sometimes my sleep, and I'd like to talk about what we might be able to do to help me work better. That's opening it up without saying menopause or perimenopause once, right?
I
They're
love
just they're
that.
just health related symptoms, right? So that keeps the conversation really grounded and respectful. It's not about over disclosing. It's not about opening the door. I also want to say that I've been asked by an employer, can I say, are you menopausal? And my advice is, if you're an employer listening to this episode, no, you can't say, are you menopausal, right?
Any more than you can say to a woman who's grumpy, "Do you have your period?"
Yeah, that, right?
Oh,
No,
cringe.
that is not
Yeah,
appropriate. So if you've noticed some changes, ask an open question. I've noticed some changes in your energy. I've noticed some changes in your, kind of confidence. Is there anything I can do to help? Is there
great way to
anything
approach it.
is there anything we can do to support you?
I would well, my opinion, so I want you to get some guidance from you because you're the expert here, but as a woman, I love that question, sorry, the statement and the question of, getting the support as an employee. But is there a way that we can actually approach it where we do actually talk about perimenopause and menopause so that it does not become, it continue to
Yes.
become a taboo conversation where we may, so for the women who are really self-conscious, I think that's the best way to approach it.
Yeah.
But for those of us who are a little bit past that,
Yeah.
would you recommend actually
Yes,
mentioning it so that we can
definitely.
take the lid off it?
Yes, absolutely. I would say read the room.
Yes.
Because we don't read the room. Who are you talking to? But I would definitely say if you're a bit more confident, if you are past the whole, I don't want to talk about health related symptoms. I want to call it what it is and say, I'm experiencing symptoms of perimenopause. You can say that. Things like, but you can also educate while you're talking about it and bring it up and say, I'm experiencing some symptoms of perimenopause at the moment, and I'm feeling a little less kind of confident. I'm feeling a little fatigue. I'm feeling, like you can say those things. I think it's going to depend initially on the relationship you have with the person you're talking to
Yeah, perfect. They
and the
read the room.
workplace culture that
Mm.
you are in a, if you're in a, I'm going to say blokey workplace. Um, there's probably some steps to take to get to that point. Whereas if
Mm.
you're working in an organisation that has a high number of women, of a variety of ages, go your hardest.
I'm
Just
actually thinking of some ladies that I know that work as tradies, which are very male dominant, and yeah, like how they approach that conversation with the gents as well.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
difficult one. Hence
Mm.
why I've put together a uh, workplace toolkit, right, for employers.
I
There's a
like a good
workplace
toolkit.
Yeah, there's a workplace tool. It's a workplace conversations toolkit. So that it's helping employers and their teams one, understand what's going on, two, giving them some words, some language around how to bring it up, how to have conversations, how to implement the 3S tool, like the 3S framework in their workplaces. It's got a policy document, a drafted policy document in it, so it's a whole comprehensive toolkit to give employers and teams and colleagues, male and female, the words around, the structures,
Awesome.
the conversation structures around how to
And how
have
do they
those
get a hold of
conversations.
this toolkit? Do they
That
contact you? How do they?
they would source it off the website susanjudd.com,
Mhm.
where it will be housed when it's published. So it's
Awesome.
coming.
Look forward
It's
to
it's
that.
coming. Yes, but I'm happy to provide the link for your listeners, which you might be able to put in the show notes,
Yes,
for
absolutely.
a download. It's a complimentary download of a mini workplace conversations toolkit for women to start the conversation. Right?
Yes,
So
absolutely.
I
We'll
think that
definitely
would
put
be
that.
kind
We'll
of
put that
useful
in.
for the listeners if they are
Yes.
wondering, well, that all sounds good, Susan, but that doesn't sound like something I would say,
Mm.
or I'm not that confident to bring it up, to say it like that. I think they can have a read of the mini conversations guide, which I developed just for women. The workplace toolkit is for organisations, like
Mhm.
businesses, to purchase and to have all of the tools they need to have the conversations and train people and all of that stuff. But this little guide is just for women who want to, kind of
Yeah.
slowly talk about the issue. How do
Love
I
it.
bring it
We're
up?
definitely gonna put the link in for that for
Yeah,
sure. So
yeah,
have a
yeah,
look in the show notes. We'll pop it in there for sure.
yeah.
Alrighty. Well, we've covered so much, but just before we wrap up, is there any final words or anything that you would like to speak to women about, or workplaces about, any hints, tips, anything that we haven't already covered?
Look, what I'd really like to say to your listeners, to the women who are listening, and to the workplaces, if there's any workplaces listening, I'd love them, both of those women and workplaces, to understand that women are not broken, right? They are not broken. They are becoming, they are reinventing, they are going to transition through and be newly empowered, and they're going to bring wisdom to their lives and to their workplaces, and they're going to bring agency, right? And this is where the fabulous in the hot, foggy and fabulous,
Love
I
it.
think it's really important, because actually postmenopause is not too shabby. Okay. And
I've
I'm
heard that.
speaking from experience, right? I'm through it, right? And I'm on the other side. And I must admit, I still have symptoms, certain symptoms. And my husband did say to me a couple of weeks ago, "Are you done yet?" And I'm like, "I don't know.
Tanya.
I'm not, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but you're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. It's a transition. And the other side of it, I want you to not be afraid of it. I've met a lot of women who are in denial and who are absolutely terrified. And so, but the outcome is, once you're through it, you bring wisdom and you bring agency. And I think that's really important. It's going to affect your confidence. And maybe your emotional steadiness and your energy and that sort of thing. But in the end, you're going to have capability, you're going to have leadership, you're going to bring a lot of value to your families, to your partnerships, to your workplaces and your communities. And I think that's really important to understand, that there's definitely a light.
It's so true. The last time we were experiencing all of those things was in puberty, where we were unsure of ourselves, we were going through an identity crisis, our body was changing. Like we've already experienced this.
Mhm.
It was different symptoms, but the concepts were all the same.
Mm.
And we came through this. Like once
Yeah.
you go through puberty and then, you're in an older teen and in your younger 20s, you're kind of like, in the words of Pink, to quote her, "I am here," right? So they
Yeah.
kind of just rise and off we go, start our
Yeah.
lives.
Yeah.
And I guess you're saying now postmenopause is the same.
The
So
same. We've
yeah,
got a third left to go. We've still got a third. Like, we've got a third of our life at least still to go. So we don't want to
yeah,
waste that.
yeah. And some people have still got half to go. Like some people are
Exactly.
younger.
Some people are
So
like, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, absolutely. Some people who go through menopause, particularly medical menopause,
yes.
and kind of chemical menopause for the transgender, like all of these people, they're going through it young, so they've
Mm,
got a long life to live. It's good. it's
yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's fabulous.
I love a bit of hope.
It's
Susan, it has been, to say a pleasure is an understatement. Absolutely loved having you on the show. You're an absolute gem with full of so much wisdom. Thank you so much. And I look forward
welcome.
to future conversations with you as well.
Yeah, love it. Okay, well, thank you for having me. I hope your listeners get some, great ideas that they can implement out of the conversation we've had today.
Oh, I'm sure they have. I know I certainly have. And I'm kind of in the loop. So for ladies who are not quite in the loop and are kind of feeling a bit isolated and lost, I think this has been pretty powerful. I actually love that the universe has made both of us have a bit of brain fog at the beginning of the show, which just showed everyone, hello, it doesn't matter who you are or what you do. It's happening to the
Hey,
best of us.
it's authentic.
It absolutely is.
I love it. It's authentic.
It absolutely is. Well,
Awesome.
and that wraps up another episode of the Perimenopause and Midlife podcast. Thanks again for joining. Tune in again for our next episode. And please don't forget to subscribe and share it with the other women that you know. Sharing is caring. Don't keep it to yourself. Stay amazing until next time. Thank you for listening to the Perimenopause and Midlife podcast. Join me next time for more honest conversations about midlife and what's possible from here.